The smartphone, as you know it, is dead. For the last decade, we've been living in an era of refinement, smaller notches, slightly faster chips, and cameras that look a bit better in the dark. But something shifted deep inside Apple Park this year. The rumors started as a whisper among supply chain analysts in Taipei. But now, the data is undeniable. The iPhone 18 Pro Max isn't just a phone. It is the beginning of the post-smartphone era. It is a device that shouldn't technically exist yet, pushing the boundaries of physics, silicon, and artificial intelligence to a point that makes the previous generations look like ancient relics. Welcome to my channel, Tech Launch. Subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon for the new tech updates. If you are thinking about upgrading or if you're curious why the tech world is currently in a state of absolute panic, you need to listen very closely. We are about to deconstruct every single atom of the iPhone 18 Pro Max. We are going to talk about the invisible technology that Apple has been hiding in plain sight. The revolutionary battery chemistry that finally solves the one-day limit, and a camera system that is literally rewriting the laws of optics. This is the definitive deep dive into the most ambitious piece of consumer electronics ever created. Let's start with the first thing you'll notice, yet the thing you'll never actually see: the under-display Face ID and the absolute death of the dynamic island. For years, the cutout has been the compromise. It was the scar on the face of the iPhone. But with the 18 Pro Max, Apple has finally perfected the sub-pixel transparency required to hide the world's most advanced facial recognition system beneath the OLED matrix. When the screen is on, it is a pure, uninterrupted sheet of glass, a window into another world. When you look at this display, you aren't seeing pixels. You're seeing a 2008 canvas that uses a new quantum coding to produce colors that the human eye usually only sees in nature. This is the Promotion 3.0 era. We aren't just talking about 120 Hz. We are talking about a variable refresh rate that can scale from a battery sipping 0.1 Hz all the way up to a blistering 240 Hz for gaming. It is so smooth that it feels like you're touching the interface itself, not a piece of glass. But the beauty is only skin deep. The real story, the story that has Samsung and Google executives losing sleep, is what's happening under the hood with the A20 Bionic chip. Or perhaps, as the rumors strongly suggest, Apple will finally drop the Bionic moniker for something more powerful, the A20 Ultra. This is the world's first true 2nm mass-produced processor. To put that in perspective, the transistors on this chip are barely larger than a strand of human DNA. We are reaching the physical limits of what silicon can do. This chip doesn't just run apps. It predicts them through a massive upgrade to the neural engine. The iPhone 18 Pro Max utilizes predictive fluidity. It learns your habits so deeply that it preloads the data for the app you're about to open before your finger even touches the glass. It's not fast, it's instantaneous. And then there is the heat. In a device this powerful, heat is the ultimate enemy. But Apple has reportedly borrowed technology from the aerospace industry, implementing a microscopic vapor chamber system infused with graphene. This allows the iPhone 18 Pro Max to maintain peak performance for hours. Imagine playing console-quality games with full ray tracing and global illumination without the phone ever getting uncomfortably warm or forcefully dimming the screen. This is the promise of the 18 Pro Max. It's a MacBook Pro in your pocket. But raw performance is utterly useless if your phone dies by 5 p.m. And this is exactly where the iPhone 18 Pro Max shifts from being merely impressive to genuinely disruptive. For years, the smartphone industry has been trapped in a vicious cycle: brighter screens and faster chips draining lithium-ion batteries that simply haven't evolved fast enough to keep up. But Apple is reportedly fundamentally changing the chemistry. We are looking at the commercial debut of a stacked battery architecture heavily utilizing silicon-carbon technology, drastically increasing energy density without expanding the physical footprint of the phone. Imagine a device that easily breezes through 2 full days of heavy use, from 4K ProRes video recording to intense gaming, without ever giving you battery anxiety. We're talking about a leap from the standard 4,500 mAh capacity up to an effective 5,500, but delivering the real-world endurance of a much larger power bank thanks to the sheer efficiency of that 2nm A20 Ultra. When you pair that new chemistry with an intelligent, AI-driven power management system that micro-adjusts voltage at the transistor level 1,000 times a second, the era of carrying a charging brick everywhere you go is officially over. Speaking of artificial intelligence, let's take a moment to separate the actual signal from the marketing noise. The tech world has been obsessing over AI for the past few years, with companies rushing to slap a cloud-based chatbot on anything with a screen. But the iPhone 18 Pro Max isn't just pinging a server to answer your trivia questions. It is running an incredibly massive, multimodal Apple Intelligence model entirely on-device. This requires staggering amounts of unified memory, and supply chain leaks point to a base of 12 GB of RAM, perhaps even 16 on the higher storage tiers. Why does this actually matter to you in the real world? Because Siri is finally graduating from a basic voice assistant to an autonomous, context-aware agent. Imagine pointing your camera at a complicated spreadsheet or a complex architectural blueprint and asking your phone to not only explain it but to cross-reference it with the emails you received last Tuesday and generate a summary document, all instantly, securely, and without a single packet of data ever leaving your device. It's the ultimate convergence of absolute privacy and extreme computational power. It transforms the phone from a passive tool you operate into an active, anticipatory partner. Now, let's talk about the cameras, because this is where the laws of optics are essentially being rewritten. For the last 5 years, Apple, Samsung, and Google have been locked in a computational photography arms race. But you can only do so much with software when you are constrained by tiny physical sensors. The iPhone 18 Pro Max completely breaks this bottleneck. We are expecting a true 1-inch main sensor, a massive component usually reserved for dedicated, premium point-and-shoot cameras. But size is only half the story. Apple is finally introducing a variable aperture across the entire Pro lens array. This means the physical opening of the lens mechanically adjusts to the environment, just like the human eye. In bright daylight, the aperture closes down to keep the image razor-sharp from edge to edge. In pitch black, it opens wide to physically swallow light. When you combine a 1-inch sensor, a mechanical variable aperture, and the unparalleled image signal processor of the A20 Ultra, night mode as a software feature almost becomes obsolete. The phone just natively sees in the dark. But the real magic trick, the one that changes how you shoot video forever, is the telephoto lens. The tetraprism design we saw in previous generations was essentially just a prototype. The 18 Pro Max is expected to feature a continuous optical zoom lens. No more jumping jarringly between fixed 3x and 5x focal lengths and relying on muddy digital cropping to fill the gaps. The internal lenses will actually slide smoothly inside the chassis, giving you pure, uncompromised optical quality at 4x, 6x, and arguably up to true 10x magnification. Whether you are far back at a concert, in the stands at a sporting event, or just trying to capture a candid moment of your kids from across the park without ruining the moment, the depth of field and natural bokeh will be virtually indistinguishable from a professional mirrorless camera. It's an optical engineering marvel tucked into a device less than 9mm thick. And this brings us to the design, the physical object you are actually going to hold. Titanium was a massive step forward for weight reduction and durability, but it was merely phase 1. The iPhone 18 Pro Max introduces a unibody liquid metal titanium fusion. The seams between the glass and the metal frame are machined to such a microscopic tolerance that the device feels like it was poured into existence rather than assembled in a factory. But the most controversial change, the one that will absolutely dominate the headlines and tech blogs, is the complete elimination of mechanical buttons. Volume, power, and the action button are transitioning to solid-state, pressure-sensitive zones driven by a network of miniaturized haptic engines hidden inside the rail. Those of us who remember the shift from the click wheel to the touchscreen, or the physical home button to the haptic home button on the iPhone 7, know exactly how jarring this sounds at first. But the benefit is absolute structural integrity. Without physical cutouts breaking the frame, the phone becomes essentially impervious to water and dust. It also clears crucial internal space for that massive new stacked battery and the advanced continuous zoom camera module. It is a bold, aggressive design choice that will inevitably force the rest of the industry to follow suit within a year. Of course, none of this bleeding-edge technology exists in a vacuum, and it certainly won't come cheap. We need to have a serious, honest conversation about value. The research and development required to pioneer 2nm chips, under-display facial recognition, and continuous optical zoom is staggering. Do not be surprised if the starting price of the iPhone 18 Pro Max creeps up, potentially breaching the $1,299 or even $1,399 threshold for the base model. This poses a fascinating question for the market. If you are currently holding an iPhone 15 or 16, your device is still incredibly capable. The tech industry wants you to feel acute FOMO every single September. But the reality is that the 18 Pro Max is designed specifically for the power user, the creative professional, or the person who holds onto their phone for 4 to 5 years and wants a device that will effortlessly bridge the gap into the next decade of spatial computing and AI. What Apple is doing here isn't just releasing another iteration to boost quarterly earnings. They are strategically positioning the iPhone 18 Pro Max as the central, indispensable hub of your entire digital existence. It is a device so powerful it actually threatens to cannibalize their own iPad and entry-level MacBook sales. When you step back and look at the aggregate of these rumors, the vanishing dynamic island, the hyper-efficient stacked battery, the mechanical continuous zoom, and the localized Apple intelligence, you realize this isn't a smartphone anymore. It is a pocket-sized supercomputer masquerading as a phone. It is the culmination of 20 years of mobile engineering finally reaching its ultimate form. So, the real question isn't whether the iPhone 18 Pro Max is an incredible piece of technology. The specs speak for themselves. The question is whether your daily life demands this level of unprecedented power. Are you ready to embrace a device that anticipates your needs, sees perfectly in the dark, and ditches physical buttons forever? Or has the smartphone arms race finally outpaced what the average user actually needs? I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Would you justify the massive upgrade just for the continuous optical zoom and the multi-day battery? Or are you holding on to your current phone until it completely stops working? Drop your honest opinions down in the comments below. I read every single one. If you found this breakdown valuable, hitting that like button helps the channel immensely. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming deep dive into the real-world benchmarks of the A20 Ultra. Until next time, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.